Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are kicking off the fall DIY season with a collection of some of my favorite fall DIYs. I know it's not fall yet, but fall DIY season is upon us. So we're gonna take a look at these easy, budget-friendly, mini Dollar Tree, easy to put together fall DIY home decor. Let's get started. First up, I have this sign that I picked up from Hobby Lobby a while back. I thought it was really cute with the little details. It was, I was just showing you that it can hang up on the wall, and I paid $1.49 for it, and I've been hanging on to it. I originally thought I was going to make some type of tray out of it, but then I had an idea. So we're going to paint the bottom. I'm just painting it with some white. I don't need a full coat because we're going to actually be covering it with some fabric, but I wanted to just make sure that the words wouldn't peek through the fabric at all. So I didn't even go all the way up to the edge you can see with the paint. And yeah, so we're just going to give that a basic little base coat. If you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Leanne, and I enjoy sharing budget-friendly DIYs here on this channel. I do a lot of Dollar Tree, but I also do like Hobby Lobby clearance or thrifted items. Just try to keep it budget-friendly. And I also like to stick my head in front of the camera to make it lose focus, but don't worry, the important stuff is in focus. So at this point, I'm just using stuff I had in my stash, and I had this really fun fabric from Dollar Tree last year, but you can find fabric at a lot of places, and I'm just going in with some Mod Podge. My Mod Podge is down to the bottom of the barrel, therefore I'm picking out a lot of like goopy chunks. So anyways, we're just gonna put a nice coat of that around the whole thing. I'm trying to go pretty thick. I'm trying to get really into the corners and the edges, but we are going to go ahead and do a top coat as well. So we're just going to spread that out all over. And then I'm just lining up the fabric, and we're going to smooth that down, just trying to make sure that it is nice and straight so that the image isn't going crooked. And I'm just going to smooth that out. Try not to pull on the fabric, because with the moisture of the Mod Podge, you don't want to like stretch the fabric. So I was trying to not shift it at all, but I am using, this is like a rubber scraper tool from Mod Podge, from Plaid, the company that creates Mod Podge or sells Mod Podge. And I'm using that to push in the corners, but I'm trying to not like pull on the fabric to stretch it out, just pushing it in there so that the corners and the edges are in there nice and good. I know here it kind of looks like the fabric is crooked, but it's actually not. So yeah, so I'm just gonna smooth that out very gently, and then I let that dry. It wasn't fully dry at this point, and I'm using just a sharp cutting tool, and I'm going along and cutting that. It probably would have been easier if I let it dry all the way, because there was a couple places where it wanted to pull, plus I doubt this tool is as sharp as it could be. I have another one with changeable blades, and I can't figure out how to get the old blade out to put the new ones in. I probably need to ask for my husband's help in that. But anyways, I'm just going along. You could have also probably cut it first if you wanted, but I felt like I would get a better edge this way, and I don't know, I would get a better fit. But you could do this however you wanted, but you could certainly recreate something like this with other similar pieces. I just kind of went slow and took my time. I didn't want to rush it and mess it up, but it did take a little bit of time for me to get this done properly and completely. Here I am just using this like putty tool to kind of push down, because I had a hard time getting in the corners, cutting the corners off, and that kind of helped me keep my fingers out of the way, but pushing down the fabric while I did it. While I cut it, I should say. And then I'm going in with some Mod Podge, and I'm going to do a nice thick coat on top, and you can see with the edges, I'm just tapping it, because if I pulled it, the bottom was still a little bit wet, and I didn't want to move the fabric, so I just kind of stippled it almost, just tapped it in around the edges, and gave a nice coat on the whole thing, but I did emphasize the corners and the edges to make sure that that was stuck down really well. And then you definitely want to let this dry thoroughly. Now I've got these wooden planks. These are from the Dollar Tree. I think they come in like a 4 or 5 pack, and I'm just watering down some white paint to do a whitewash on this. I actually ended up doing 2 planks. I'm only showing you one because one plank is going to be for the next DIY. But while I had everything out, I went ahead and did them both. And I'm just thinning out the paint. I wanted to still kind of see some of the wood grain through, but I don't know. So yeah, whitewash, brushing it on, and then wiping it off with a paper towel. And on this one I did the front, back, and sides, and I didn't really need to do the back, but that's okay. That's what I did. I was so excited to pull out my fall stash and remember that I picked up some of these transfers from Dollar Tree last year, and they show it being used on a glass, but you don't need to do that. So here I am centering that on our wooden plank, and these are very sticky. Like the transfer paper sheet is very sticky compared to the other ones, but it transferred fairly easily here. I just had a couple spots I had to go back and rub again, so just make sure you pull it off slowly. And we're gonna attach that to our sign. I'm using some wood blocks with some hot glue to elevate the sign. I just thought that would be kind of cool instead of attaching it straight flat. We're gonna make like a, I don't know what to call it, but I'm gonna show you. And then I pulled out some different pumpkins I had in my stash. I believe they're all from Dollar Tree. And the 2 oranges, at first I wasn't sure because I'm like, oh, they don't like go together. And then I was like, looked at the fabric and I was like, there's definitely these 2 colored pumpkins together on the fabric. So these ones had a little clip on them. So I was just cutting that off, and I am going to make a little assemblage. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but we're gonna just stack our pumpkins. We're gonna make it look kind of like at a little harvest scene. So I've got a variety of pumpkins in 2 different shades of orange and white, and like 3 or 4 different sizes. And I'm just playing with this until I like it. I kind of lifted up the back side. This could be hung on the wall because this one does come with a hanger, but in the end, I'll show you, it actually stands up by itself as well. Dollar Tree has a lot of like small square shadow box type things. You could do something similar, but in a smaller form. I have also in my stash were these corn husks from Hobby Lobby from last year. They were originally $5.99. I know I at least only paid 50%, but my guess is I picked these up at the end of the season for like at least 75% off is my guess. But there's a ton in here, so it's a good buy. Even if you bought it now at like the 40% off, I'm sure they have them again this year. And I'm just pulling off different pieces of them and tucking them in wherever I think it looks good. I'm using a little metal hook tool, you can see, to kind of help. See, my head keeps going in there. I'm using that to just kind of push down so that the hot glue adheres down in there. And we're just gonna add corn husks and pumpkins and just keep rearranging until we have a cute little pumpkin patch. That's what we're doing. We got a cute little pumpkin patch. And I know the fabric is really busy, so I wasn't really sure what to do, but I liked that the words were on the white plank because that kind of, separates it a little bit. And I love that it's like a 3D thing. And anyways, I don't know. I just really thought this was a cute idea. So let me know what you think. And I did not plan any of this. I mean, I didn't buy anything with this in mind. I did plan this before I started doing it. But I just kind of used what I had and it worked out perfectly. And then I did decide to seal in the rub-on transfer. It was a little bit sticky, and I don't know, I just figured it'd be easier to clean. It would look nicer this way. And this is how it came out. I thought it was pretty cute, and I love that it just kind of stands up by itself, but it could also be hung up on the wall, and you could do this in a different size or shape using something from the Dollar Tree or the thrift store. But don't overlook those clearance items from Hobby Lobby either. For our next DIY, I have this pumpkin sign. It is from the Dollar Tree last year, and I'm just going to take off the twine hanger. And I wanted to show you both sides. It's got a beautiful coloring, beautiful texture, but it is kind of like chippy. It's got like this raw wood. And so I decided to protect it by using some matte Mod Podge, hoping that would keep it from like flaking off while I was working with it. So I Mod Podged both sides of this, and I tried to get a little bit on the edge. Now, I started out this DIY planning to do just one side of it, but in the end I was like, wait a minute, why don't I make this a double-sided sign? So I did both sides, two very different looks. So you could do one or the other, or you could also do both, or just use this for basic DIY inspiration. If you are enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up, say hello in the comments, and if you're new, I would love it if you would consider subscribing before you leave, and make sure you turn your notification bell on. But all of those little interactions let YouTube know that you're enjoying my video and makes them more likely to share my video with others. So once the Mod Podge was all dried is when I decided that I was going to do the other side. So originally I was just using the dark side, but now I wanted to use the light side with this fabric. And this is more fabric from the Dollar Tree that I had picked up last year. And I'm going to do the iron-on method. I believe, okay, so I'm throwing some parchment paper on top and then ironing with no steam and on a, I don't even know what setting I had it on, but this will reactivate the Mod Podge. Had I planned to do with this ahead of time, I would have done a little bit of a thicker layer of Mod Podge on this, but it still ended up working in the end. But this here is in real time. I'm just taking my time, making sure to go over all of the edges and let that Mod Podge reactivate and heat up the, or what am I trying to say? Reactivate the Mod Podge and adhere the fabric. Now, this would have been great for the first DIY too, but I didn't think I could get into the corners of the sign, which is why I didn't use this method. But this really does help with fabric, especially, and I'm not having any wrinkles. So I'm now trying to trim this off. My little rotary blade, I was having trouble. This was another struggle bus for me, but it's probably just due to not having great tools. And I know that I believe you could sand off the fabric, but I wasn't really sure how that would work. But I do end up going to that in just a second here. I trimmed off most of it with my cutting tool, and then I went in with a nail file, or you could use sandpaper, and you go away with it so that you don't pull up on the fabric. But the problem is, because of this material being a little bit rougher, like I showed in the beginning of it, I was feeling like I was gonna mess up the wood planks. Anyways, I decided that I needed to put another coat of Mod Podge on top, and then once that was dry and everything was hard, I went back in with my nail file to smooth out any of the other edges. I just felt like the edges were starting to fray a little bit. So overall, you really honestly can't tell, but I just wanted to take you through the process that I went through. So now it is all dry, and this was my original intention with these pieces here. The Welcome Fall came in a word pack from the Dollar Tree, and then the little trucks came in a pack from Hobby Lobby. Several of them were in the pack. I'm using this wood glue super glue and just trying to very carefully apply this to whatever open space I can find. I should have used a glue that dries clear. This does not dry clear, I don't believe. So as I'm pushing on this and it starts oozing out around the letters, I'm like, oh, I don't know that I need to clean that up. So I held it down really well so that it didn't move while it was drying, and went in with a paper towel to wipe out any excess. I don't have a fine tip hot glue gun, so I knew I couldn't go that route, but I should have just used a different glue. This glue stuck really well, but there was such a small space to try to get the glue on. So when it came around the edges, I didn't want it to be seen once it was all dry. So clean that up, and then I used a little bit of that glue and a little bit of hot glue on the truck, just since there was a little bit bigger of a surface to work with, and attach one of those to either side of the Welcome Fall. And now I am attaching some jute cord or jute twine to the top around the stem, and I'm just using a good amount of glue and kind of twisting the jute cord to keep it a tight twist as I go around it. And this jute cord, I don't think I show it to you in this video, is a huge gigantic spool that I found at a thrift store. I think it was originally from Hobby Lobby for like $25, and it was brand new in packaging at a thrift store for like $6. So I'm gonna be using it. And lots of hot glue here at the end to just try to cover up the whole thing, and the top is kind of the hardest, especially to not burn yourself. So I'm just using some tools to help push that down while the glue dries. So that looks great for both sides. So now I'm going in with a lighter to just kind of burn off any extras and any little glue hanging around. And then I'm taking these leaf cutouts. This is not a fall item. This is just a Dollar Tree Crafter Square item. I ended up switching out to this more unique looking leaf. I thought that was kind of more fun and whimsical, and a little bit of glue, and we're attaching that to this side. And now I didn't want this to be a hanging sign. I wanted to have a base. So we're going to take some Jenga blocks and that other wood plank that I told you about in the beginning that I made 2 of, and I'm using some of the wood glue and some hot glue and attaching some Jenga blocks. And I just keep standing it up to make sure that the Jenga blocks are going to be flush with the base. And then we're going to attach these to the base, and then we'll add more Jenga blocks to the reverse side. So hopefully that all makes sense. And then we're going to cover this up so it doesn't matter that they're not painted. Now I'm going in with some of this moss, this darker colored moss from Dollar Tree, and I'm just putting tons of hot glue. Be very careful to not burn yourself, and lots of moss, and I'm just going all the way around both sides. On the edge, I tried to make sure I was covering up like the edges of the Jenga blocks on the end pieces, just so that you couldn't see any of that. And I just kind of figured like go heavier with it and then trim it off like I'm doing here with the scissors. And I really liked the way that this looked. So I've got one side here that's a little bit more bright and whimsical, and then the other side which is a little bit more rustic and farmhouse. So you can either choose which side or use this maybe on a kitchen island where you would be seeing both sides. Let me know what you think of these. These are so fun. All right, so for this first one, I'm using this wood block cube from the Dollar Tree. As you can see, I have previously used it for a DIY, and I tend to take apart my DIYs and redo them. Not all of them, but I make a lot because of this channel. So I'm just pulling off the stickers. I'm going to sand it down. Obviously, you wouldn't have to do this if you just get a brand new one, but just wanted to show you that that can be done. And I'm giving it a base coat of Waverly chalk paint in the color ink. Now, my thought behind that was a dark color would cover up like more of the imperfections, but what I wasn't thinking through was that the orange paint I'm going to be using in today's video is in acrylic paint by Apple Barrel, which is a good color, a good paint, but it is a lot thinner than chalk paint, so it took a lot of coats of orange to cover up this black. I was thinking about ordering from another company and trying out some new paint, but I'm going to end up just going to Walmart and picking up some more of their pumpkin I ran out last year. It's a good paint, it's a good color, and it has good coverage. But believe it or not, I ended up getting this little guy here covered. But basically, you're going to take a wood cube and paint it orange or any color of your choice. I'm not partial to just orange pumpkins. But after many coats, we're going to go in with some antique wax. And I'm just going to really dry brush this with a chippy brush just to, you know, I like the different shapes for the pumpkins, but I did want to still kind of give it a little bit of dimension and kind of soften it up and, I don't know, give it more texture. So I'm just kind of going over that. And then I want a stem for this. So I am using a tumbling tower block from the tumbling tower game from Dollar Tree, and my miter saw, handsaw, I don't know, is that what this is called? Miter saw box, and I'm going to cut that down. I just eyeballed it, I didn't measure it, and we're just going to cut that down to the size that I want, smooth it off with some sandpaper, and then I wanted to color this, and I'm going to use one of these furniture markers, or furniture repair markers. This is from the Dollar Tree. It came with, I think, in 3 different shades. You could also use antique wax or brown paint or leave it natural, but I wanted to do this, so that's what I'm doing. But this is another great option instead of like stain, and like I said, they came in 3 different shades in a pack from Dollar Tree, so not very expensive at all. Now I'm going in with some Gorilla Glue and some hot glue to glue my stem on.
And I knew this, but I didn't think this through. I know that it's harder to glue on waxed items, but I was thinking it was very little wax, the antique wax. Anyways, I had a hard time getting this to stay. You'll see in just a second. And then I'm using, I know people have called this pit berries. That's probably the proper term for this berry, but I think at Dollar Tree, this bundle is called berry garland. And they have it in different colors at different times of the year. I'm wrapping it around a paintbrush to just get some little curly cues. And then I was trying to twist it around. This stem came off a couple of times. I'm peeling off the hot glue, trying it again. Basically, I think I end up just using the Gorilla Glue, and it eventually does hold. But yeah, it's hard to use hot glue when you've got something with some wax on it. And that's all I did for this one. I thought this was really cute, and it's not very big, but it's nice to kind of like mix in with other pumpkins. We have different shapes and sizes and stuff. Speaking of, here's another item. This is from the Dollar Tree. This was not originally that color. I had painted this previously and decided it would make a cute pumpkin. So we're going to paint it again. And I am mixing up my colors. Once again, I am using just apple barrel paint. If I had had the base of the chalk paint in orange, then this would have been better. But it actually didn't take too many coats. And I'm mixing up a yellow, brown, orange. Is that it? Yeah. Until I got this. I wanted more of a, like a pumpkin color. Does that make sense? Anyways, and I go on this pretty thick, but not too thick because I didn't want it to puddle in those little spaces and be hard to dry. And then I'm going to dry it with my heat gun so I can set it down and paint the rest. Now these little ceramic decorative balls, I think is what they're called. Dollar Tree had them many different times. They've had them in like their summer Shores Living line. They've had them just in their regular decor, and they come in different patterns or textures, I guess you could say, but they're all kind of round. So I'm sure you could find something similar. And I did a couple coats of that, and I love this color. It's kind of like a terracotta, kind of, but a little bit deeper. Anyways, I'm going in again with dry brushing with the antique wax, and that'll kind of just emphasize on the ridges. And then I did kind of go like long ways, you'll see in here a second, trying to make it a little bit darker in a couple spots, almost like the ridges of a pumpkin. There I am doing it. It's not super noticeable, but it was just a little bit to give it a little bit, I feel like I say the same words all the time, but like maybe a little more dimension. Anyways, we're going to put that on. And then for the stem on this one, I am taking one of these wood pieces from a pack from the Dollar Tree. I've had them forever, and I'm just cutting off a little bit of that. I was showing you a bag of like scraps that I just keep, a lot of like little leaves off of things, and I just save them, and I'm pulling them out here, giving them a trim, and these are going to be our leaves for this pumpkin. And yep, still trimming it off. And I'm going to glue the tips together here, just, don't burn yourself. But I didn't want the leaves to just lay flat when I glued them down. So curving them, like pinching the bottoms like that, just kind of made them stood up a little bit more. And then I'm going to glue one side down. So you can kind of see that here as it's sticking up. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I enjoy sharing budget-friendly DIYs here on this channel, not just Dollar Tree, but all sorts of different budget-friendly DIYs. Sometimes it's thrifting, sometimes it's clearance finds, but I hope that you consider subscribing before you leave and join my little tiny YouTube family. All right, so more of the glues. This one worked a little bit better, and I just held that down. And then I wanted to add on a little bit of moss, so I'm putting that around the front and the back. This will also add more glue to kind of hold it down, and I'm going to add it in the front and the back, and then I tuck a little bit under the leaves as well to just kind of help it all blend in and keep the leaves sticking up. So I'm doing 3 pumpkins in today's video, but they're all very different. I had a 4th one, but that's going to have to be for another video because I was having trouble figuring out how to complete what vision I had in my head. The glues were not working. So stay tuned. That'll be in another one. If it comes out the way I think it will, though, it's going to be really cute. So anyways, and then I decided I probably could have done this beforehand, but I'm going in with a tiny bit of antique wax on the leaves. I just didn't want them to look so shiny and plasticky, so I didn't really do a specific pattern, just kind of dirtied them up. And this is how this one turned out. And again, very happy with this one. I use a lot of pumpkins, And in my book, you can't have too many pumpkins when it comes to fall decorating. So for this next one, we're going to use this sign. This is from the Dollar Tree, and frankly, I thought this was pretty cute as is, so we're going to DIY the back and make this a double-sided sign because that one was super cute. I like that it said autumn. I like the traditional colors on it. I like the scarecrow. So we're just going to do the other side. And I'm just using my heat gun to help me get this sticker off. That just kind of loosens up some of the stickerness, that's not a thing, adhesive. And then I'm using a sandpaper to rough up the rest because it did leave some sticky residue behind. And then I'm going to go in with some Waverly chalk paint in the color white and paint the back of this. So I didn't go all the way to the edge because some of the brown that was like naturally on this piece kind of peeked over the edges, and I kind of liked that as a border. So I am using an angle brush, and this is very much sped up. I took my time using an angle brush, and you don't have to be a painter. It's not perfect lines. It doesn't have to be perfect lines. And I just went all the way around. Also, when I was painting, I try to paint in the shape of a pumpkin, like following, so if there's any brush strokes, you're like following the curves of the pumpkin, if that makes sense. I did 2 coats of that. And then this is a stencil from Hobby Lobby, $1.99 for 2 stencils. I picked this up last year or the year before, and I'm sure I didn't pay full price, but even $1.99 is not too bad. So definitely look into some stencils. I actually think I'm going to go and see if there's any new ones this year. So in between each one, this one I went a little too heavy on the paint. It had a tiny bit of bleed through, and I thought about starting all over, sanding it and painting it again. Sorry, my head's getting in the way. But I was like, just go with it, Leanne. It's probably going to be fine. And it was. So I'm showing you, I keep some baby wipes with my craft area, and I am cleaning them off immediately so the paint doesn't dry. And then I'm using my heat gun to dry the leaves in between so I don't accidentally smudge them. You can also use a hairdryer on a cool setting, which I have done before, well, until my hairdryer broke, and then I bought the heat gun. But you can also just wait in between, but you definitely want it to dry so you don't smear anything. So I'm going to go in with a variety of colors. I'm using more of, this is the color I just painted the last pumpkin with, and I had more of it left. So I was like, well, let's not put that to waste. And I do like the traditional colors for fall, but I also like anything that's like natural occurring in fall. And depending on where you live, maybe you didn't know that leaves do come in all colors. I'm from upstate New York originally, and we had some beautiful falls up there. You can go to New York, go to upstate, and go during fall foliage season. We would get tour buses and stuff. It's beautiful. Anyway, so you can see I'm just going to keep going with these, layering them all over. In just a second, is that not quite? Just a second, I decided to add in another color. The animals are getting loud. I don't know if you guys can hear all the birds and the insects. I won't know until I play this back. And the wind chimes are starting to go. So I'm sorry, guys, if you're looking for a super uber professional, see, there I am. I'm bringing in some red. I try to be professional what I'm showing you, but I don't have an editor, and I record and film in my real life when I have time. So I hope that you enjoy that and appreciate that. Also, if you do enjoy that and appreciate it, if you like these DIYs, please give this video a thumbs up. That helps me out so very much. It lets YouTube know that you're digging me, and they're more likely to share my videos with other people, which hugely helps me out. So as you can see, I just keep going. I'm layering some of them, overlapping them. And then I took some burnt umber as the color, and I painted the stem. And then I decided to go around the edges, which I didn't really have to do, but I did, and I started, so I finished. But not really necessary. And then I got a little bit of it on the front. Sorry, hang on. We got a plane going by. I made you guys deal with a lot of noises, but I wasn't going to do the plane. But my plan was originally to dry brush with some antique wax on this anyway, so the little bit dark edges didn't bother me, but it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't just, painted the edges because it didn't need to be painted. But it's okay. I wanted to kind of mute this down a little bit, and you can see I'm doing this in the direction of like the curves of a pumpkin as well. And then once that's dry, I'm sanding down the edges a little bit. I was trying to kind of lighten up where I'd accidentally gotten some paint, but I was also just kind of distressing it a little bit, I suppose. Nothing over the top. And then I wanted to seal this with some Mod Podge. I actually sealed the front as well, even though I didn't do anything to it, just because some of the raised letters were wanting to like pick off a little bit, and I just was like, I'm going to throw some Mod Podge on here and seal that all in. And I'm making a little finger bow with some jute, and I know there's a way to do this with like one piece all together, but I did not have the brain power in this moment to do it that way, so I just took another little piece and tied that little loop in half. But there's lots of videos out there. If you struggle with bows at all, I wouldn't say I don't struggle with them, but I just make it happen. So tied that off, and then I'm going to use my lighter to burn off any fuzzies. You don't have to do that, but I like to do it. I also like the coloring that it kind of gives the bow in places. And we're just going to hot glue that down and trim off the little tails. I put the bow low enough that it couldn't be seen from the other side because I wanted this to be a true reversible side. So as you can see, I did not do anything to the first side, but here is the side I made over, and I love how it came out.
All right, up first I've got one of these styrofoam pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. They have them usually every year. I don't always find the white ones. Sometimes you just find the orange ones, but the white ones are really nice because it's a lot easier to cover up than the orange ones. I'm going in with some apple barrel paint in the color khaki, and we're going to just coat this so that if any of the white peeks or any of the pumpkin itself peeks through, it'll blend in a little bit more. Now, I struggled a little bit initially with this DIY, but I absolutely love how it came out. It came out better than I thought. But because of how I ended up doing this, I probably didn't have to paint it. So I'm using my heat gun to dry it so that I could set it down and paint the top of it. Just use it on a low setting, okay? You don't want to melt your styrofoam. And then I was just using whatever I could find within reach to cut out the top and the bottom. The orange styrofoam pumpkin, the stem just comes right out of the pumpkin, but you would actually still need to cut out a bigger hole anyway. But we're going to do the top and the bottom. It is hollow inside. And I am using this braided rope from Hobby Lobby. And I was really excited to get to use this. It was originally $9.99, but I got it at least 50% off. And I've also used some of it, given some of it away. Anyways, we're going to cut down strips. And I taped them because these strips will come undone. So now here I am just gluing the 3 strands together. And I have my little finger protectors on. So my plan for this was to cover this whole thing with strips of this. But the hot glue, first of all, was kind of melting the inside of the styrofoam because I was using it on the hot setting. And this rope was so stiff that it was just not adhering. I was not getting anywhere with it. And I was kind of bummed because I really, really wanted to do this. Okay, so I kind of walked away from this, and this is why this DIY was supposed to be my last video, but I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. So I set it aside and went back to it later. So what I decided to do was kind of combine an idea I had for another pumpkin in with this one. Now this particular ribbon is a thicker ribbon that I bought at Dollar Tree Plus section when it was marked down at the end of a season. But you could also use Dollar Tree's burlap ribbon or another just strips of burlap. But I'm cutting off the wired gold edge because I didn't want the wire and I didn't want the gold. And then I'm cutting each strip in half because I wanted smaller strips. So I'm just using what I've got here. I don't mind the frayed rough edges. So now I'm using my glue gun at a lower temp so it won't melt the styrofoam as much. But also the ribbon is lighter and more flexible, and it just sticks, it glued down much easier than the braided ribbon would. So we're gonna do strips of this all around. Sorry, my head often gets in the way of the camera because I'm trying to look at it straight on, but your view is also straight on. So I'm gonna just do this all around, going from the top to the bottom, and you do need a slightly bigger, well, I did a big enough hole. You do need the hole this big because it's going to fill up once we add everything we want to add in. So I'm just going to go around, and I just kind of started going like opposite sides, and kind of just kept going until I filled it all out. So you could use any ribbon, or you could use fabric, strips of fabric here, a drop cloth, yeah, all sorts of things. But I think the hollow styrofoam pumpkin is easiest because then you can get inside of it versus just like a plastic pumpkin where you're doing the outside of it. So I do recommend that, but so many different things you can use for the outside. I don't like to paint a false picture of how it goes. Sometimes things do not turn out the way you intend, but usually you can keep going with them and still like what what you end up with. So if you're into that kind of thing, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel, be a part of my YouTube family so you don't miss out on my future videos. Subscribing is just YouTube's way of saying like, oh, I want to see her videos again. So, all right, anyways, now we're going to go in with the braided rope. We're not going to do it all the way around, but having the ribbon to glue it to made it so that I could use more hot glue without melting the styrofoam, and it just worked better. I tried the first way, like the original way, for quite a while. I didn't show you all of the footage, and it just was not going to work. So this worked way easier, and I loved the combination with the burlap ribbon. I definitely use a lot of traditional fall colors in my decor, but I also like a lot of neutrals, and so this was kind of fun to throw in a little bit of a different feel and some neutrals so that, I do tend to put out a lot of fall decor, and this way it's not, screaming all the colors in everything. It's, I can mix it up with some neutrals. So as you can see, the hole is definitely getting a little bit full here. I have to put plenty of hot glue there because the strands will come undone. I'm using my finger protectors. I'm using my scissors to hold that in there because it was getting hard to get my finger in there. Whatever you need to do. And I'm just going to go around until I have enough of it. I wasn't really sure how much I was going to do here, but I think I ended up doing 8 strands altogether. And then I wanted to move on to my embellishments. So I have these little wood pieces. These are from the Dollar Tree. At some point they've had various sizes. This was like the smaller ones. The other ones are more like a stump almost. But I got 3 pieces that were about the same length. They're curved, they're not perfect, so I just kind of, blend them together so that they could be one bigger piece. And I glued them together so that would stay really good. And then I also pulled out a bag of scraps. I tend to just keep the leaves and trim and little flowers and whatever when I'm working with florals, and I just have them in a little baggie. And I love the muted tone of the lamb's ear. So I'm going to attach these in here before I add in the stump. And I do tack down the leaf itself with just a little bit of hot glue just to make sure that lays down the way I want it to. This DIY, you may not like it, and that's okay. My feelings won't be hurt. But this came out so much better than I thought, and it's for sure my favorite of fall so far this year. Now we're going to add in the stump, and I'm just figuring out which direction, because again, these aren't perfectly straight and even. Going in with plenty of hot glue, but making sure that the hot glue isn't where it can be seen. And then I wanted to add one more bit of embellishment. I couldn't decide, and I've had these in my stash forever. And they are these little burlap roses from the Dollar Tree, and I just clipped off the wire. They're on like a wire post here, and I thought that this was just the perfect little embellishment on this pumpkin. I really like how it came out. Sorry for the lighting in all of my final shots. We were in the middle of a storm, and I needed to get this finished, so I was using a lamp to add some extra light. So hopefully that's all right for you guys. But let me know what you guys think about that DIY. For this next one, I'm showing you the leaf ornaments is what they're called from Dollar Tree. I had a package of ones from this year, but I also had this leaf left over from last year, and they were a little bit different. But I'm just finishing up the one from last year. And I'm going to give this a good coat of Mod Podge, and then we're going to let that dry. We're just going to make sure you get all of the ends and the edges, and not a super thick coat, but a decent coat. Because we're going to do the iron-on method with some scrap paper. So this is just, as you can see, a true scrap piece of paper. But I was able to put it in an angle that it fit, cover that with parchment paper, and then I'm using my iron with no steam to reactivate the Mod Podge, and as you can see, it is totally adhered. I'm going to cut away the excess, and then I'm going in. I've used emery boards before to file. This 3-pack from Dollar Tree kind of stinks. I wouldn't recommend it. I have an individual one that I bought from Dollar Tree, and it was definitely much better quality. This one just kept bending and breaking on me, but you just want to use sandpaper is fine. And I'm just going to sand away so that we don't pull the paper back up and get the leaf shape back again with all of those little points. So this took a little bit of time. It wasn't hard, but it took some time. I didn't want to break the wood piece, obviously, because they were very thin, but I wanted my leaf shape. And when you sand it, which is fine, you can see it kind of roughed up the edges a little bit, but I wanted that to be dark again. So I went in with some antique wax, and then I didn't just do the edges. I kind of fanned it over a little bit more than just the edges, and then took a very little bit that was left and went over the whole thing. You could barely even see it, but I just wanted to keep this nice and dark. And then I have this raffia ribbon and this lace ribbon. The lace ribbon is from the Dollar Tree. The raffia ribbon was sent to me from my friend Kendra at Late Night Creations when we did a collab and we sent each other some items to craft with. I wanted to make a double layered bow. I'm not a bow person, but I tried doing them together and it just wasn't working. So we're going to do it a different way. I'm taking my lace ribbon and I'm just laying it down here crisscrossed. It's not tied or anything. And then I'm going to do a simple shoestring bow with this raffia ribbon. I really do think that's what it's called. I could be wrong. I thought about mixing in that dark brown and white twine that you see there, but I ended up not doing that. And I laid these on top, took a piece of that raffia ribbon and just tied that down the center and made sure it was all even and straight, tied that in a knot in the back and trimmed off the ends. If you're looking for a good bow tutorial, there are plenty of them on YouTube. I can show you how to do it when you don't know what you're doing because I just don't do them very often, so I don't do a super amazing job. And we're just going to attach this down at the bottom, and I thought in the end it actually came out really cute. And then I'm going to attach this to this burlap square sign. This was also sent to me from Kendra. She sent me so many things when we did that collab that I didn't get to use them all in that video. So I'm still working on them, but you can get these. I actually think Dollar Tree has had some burlap canvases, but Hobby Lobby and Michael's, you can find this kind of thing. And that's it. I just hot glued that on, and I'm just using this as a leaning sign, so there's no stand, there's nothing to hang it with, but you could easily add something if you wanted to do either of those, but I'll just be leaning it up. All right, so our final DIY, I have this vine wreath from Hobby Lobby. I was so bummed that they put the sticker right on it because it's just like cardboard MDF type stuff, and so it was peeling off a layer. So yeah, you can see it. But they put another one on that was just tied on it, which was great. But you can see, I think I only paid $1.67, I think is what it said, on clearance from Hobby Lobby, and I've been wanting to use it for something, and so today's the day. I'm going to take some Waverly chalk paint in the color white, and I really wanted more of an off-white. I didn't want the stark white, so I'm going to mix in some of this khaki from Apple Barrel. I used to have the plaster from Waverly, and I don't have that anymore, and I went to buy some, and they didn't have it, except for like the jumbo bottle, which I didn't want. Anyways, using what I've got. So this took quite a while to paint because, as you can see, there's all of these edges and all underneath the leaves. But I took the time to do it. Don't worry, I'm not going to share all of that with you. But I did the front and all the sides, the insides, the back side, all the things. It really only took one coat. I did a touch up in a couple spots with I wouldn't even say a second coat. I did one coat and then I touched it up in certain areas, and it sucks it up really well, so it dried quick. It's very much of a heavy cardboard material. I do believe that Hobby Lobby has the same design in a wood piece, but this was what was on clearance. So that's what I got. So you can see now I'm doing like the inside sides. So you don't necessarily have to. If you want to leave the edges raw, you could do that, but it's hard for the paint to not get on it. So it's just easier to do the whole thing. And now I'm going in with some antique Waverly wax, and I just have very little of that on my stencil brush, and I'm going around all of the edges, the leaves, as well as the center part. I wanted this to kind of stand out and pop a little bit more. I'm also going with a more like neutral and rustic feel here, so I didn't want anything to be super crisp. Plus, all of that added like dimension helps kind of disguise some of the imperfections of this piece. Some things were curved up a little bit, and when I painted it and that was wet, some of that just, it softened up the material a little bit, so it just wasn't perfect. And so I didn't want to try to act like it was perfect. I just wanted to kind of go with the imperfections. So you can do with that what you will. If you're enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out so much. It lets YouTube know that you're enjoying my video, and it makes them more likely to show my video to other people, which of course helps me out. So like, comment, let me know which one of the DIYs is your favorite. Let me know when you're going to start working on fall DIYs. I love interacting with you guys in that way. So now I've got this wooden leaf from Dollar Tree. I thought that end was chipped, but it's totally not because it was finished on all of the ends. This was in my stash along with the rub-on transfer from last year, but these I believe are both out again this year. And what I wanted to do was layer this on. We're making like a wreath. I don't know, is it called a wreath if there's not actual florals on it? I don't know. Either way, I was trying to figure out if I wanted the leaf straight up and down or sideways so that I knew how to put this transfer on because I didn't want the words to be sideways. So I decided to just do it straight up and down. These particular transfers are very sticky. I'm going to stick my head here in a minute. Yeah, because I needed to get straight over top because once you push that down, there is no removing it because it's very, very sticky. But it does transfer fairly easily. And so just make sure to pull it up a little bit at a time. And if it has not fully transferred, you can easily set it back down and just rub on that a little bit more. And then I was thinking about how I wanted to hang this, and I often hang stuff on my doors, especially inside my house, with a long piece of ribbon, and I loop it over the top of the door, and I have a command hook on the inside of the door upside down. So I hope that all kind of makes sense to you. So I saw how long I wanted my ribbon to be, and I wanted to get that down first so that I could glue the leaf on top. And as you saw, I just made marks under where the leaf was in contact with a pencil, so I knew where to put the hot glue. Put the hot glue all around this, and then you got to just really hold that wood piece down because they're not perfectly flat. They kind of bow up just a little bit. Sorry, my head just keeps popping in, but you know, I want the DIY to come out good. So now we're going to do another bow, and I have this orange ribbon. This is from Dollar Tree this year, and so these are neutral DIYs with a little bit of muted color. So I just made a loop, and I'm going to hot glue that together. Be careful you don't burn your hands. And then I separately cut the pieces here to be the tail, and I'm going to use some jute twine. I'm going to scrunch down my loop and attach the tails to it. So hopefully that makes sense for you. Going to make sure it is all how I want it and the loops are even before I tighten my knot here. And then we're going to dovetail the ends. And I wasn't super worried about the center of the bow because we're going to add something else on. These burlap stickers, Dollar Tree has 3 different types of packages for these, and I'm going to use this one. The sticker piece stayed on the packaging, but I was going to hot glue it anyway. So I'm going to hot glue that to the center, and I love this one so much. And then we will hot glue this on top. This will also cover up the hole on top of the wood leaf because I left that natural, so I didn't want to fill it in because you'd still be able to see it. And then that's it. I hung this over my door. Once again, sorry for the lighting. Thunderstorms have been happening a lot lately, and I still have to do my filming, but I show you how it is hung up over the door there. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. If you liked it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.